Hello, welcome everybody. It's great to talk about books because often you will see in UK TV and American TV that books are original IP from which lots of TV happens, both for adults and children. And kids TV, a lot, very often comes from kids' books because you've built a whole, brand through the books itself. And children's books are a media by themselves in its own right. So I'm going to give you a very quick introduction. So I've written over 70 books for children. I write in education books, I write picture books, I write chapter books. I'm working on longer novels. I'm also writing currently for TV, and I also write plays. So I'm across the board. Writing is the only skill I've got. And I'm also an oral storyteller, and that again goes back to a lot of points that the speakers have made so far, that if you have a passion for working with children, then find a way to do all of that. So I'm always in schools, like today I have the whole day in schools working with children, so that's another way to get to connect with your audiences as well. This slide is going to introduce you to the whole framework, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit from publishing side and from the creative side. So if you take the value chain, which is how the whole book starts, a writer or an illustrator will create a story. Normally, we work on our own. We could work with our peers who will be writing that story. Often you want an agent to represent your work. There are publishers who will accept work directly, but at some point it becomes more viable to have an agent, especially if you also want to sell it to TV and things like that. The agent will submit to different publishing houses, and from that they will get offers. Sometimes just one offer, sometimes everything is rejected, sometimes you'll get multiple offers in which you go to something called auctions. So the agent will run an auction across all the publishing houses, but not with any gavels or anything. That's not the fun part. And then the editor will, once they make an offer and we accept the offer, will acquire the book and they'll start editing the book. So if you've edited your book already 1,000,000 times, they will edit it a few more times. And then the design team will work on it with cover and interiors, depending on what kind of book. So if it's a fully illustrated picture book, which I'll come to the categories, then there's a lot more work in the illustration. If it's a novel for older children like 9 to 12 and 13 plus, then they're just going to have covers and sometimes a little bit of black and white illustrations inside. And there's a whole host of marketing and publicity and rights team that work in publishing houses. So marketing is paid marketing, which means press, billboards, that kind of stuff. Publicity is all the free stuff, social media, going to bookshops, all of that kind of things can be coordinated. So those are, again, amazing roles to be doing in publishing. And then the bookshops will source those books from wholesalers. Again, wholesaler is a big topic. There are three major wholesalers in the UK, and there are a few more like that in the US, but also Amazon is one of those wholesalers who cutthroat buy books at very high discounts, and then they will distribute stock into bookshops, and then the reader buys the book. And then if you're in children's media, and often under 12s, the parent buys the book, and then you give it to the child, so this whole goes through this whole process. So these are various people who are involved, and these are therefore roles that you could do. So depending on what you're interested in, are you interested in creative roles? Then that's editorial, design, those are all creative roles. Now, if you are in marketing and rights, that's both a combination of sales. For example, rights means you take a book, and you could want to publish it in America, so you might want to sell the book, rights of that book, to be published in America with another publisher, or you could do it in other parts of Europe. You could also sell translation rights, so that's a very sales specific role. And then you could be working in literary agents or rights agents. Now, literary agents are people who work with a creative, and they find work and they find places where they can place this work. And sometimes literary agents do their own rights sales, and sometimes they go through rights agents. You could be in distribution, wholesale, like huge warehouses and that kind of stuff, and lots of people do absolutely love books. Booksellers, right from Waterstones to indie booksellers, you could be working with any of them. Librarian is an absolute big part of children's publishing, especially in schools and in council libraries. If you're interested in books, that's another avenue to look at. And a lot of wannabe writers, but also people who are absolutely interested in books are bloggers, librarians, and different reviewers and things like that. But there are also organizations like Book Trust and those people who are very big influencers in the book market. And there are jobs across the board on all of those teams. So if you want to write for children or if you want to work in children's publishing, these are the basic high-level categories. So books for babies and toddlers is 0 to 3, usually done in-house, which means if you are a creator who wants to write and you're on an editorial team, you might be invited to write in these books. Picture books in the UK are predominantly 3 to 5, but they're slowly doing some older picture books as well. US does a lot more of the older picture books as well. And then chapter books again come in two categories, 5 to 7, 7 to 9. The difference between picture books and chapter books are fully illustrated, and chapter books have black and white illustrations or two color illustrations depending on how expensive or how good the book wants to be, what the publisher thinks about the design. And then you could do fiction and non-fiction for young readers, what America calls middle grade, which is for 9 to 12-year-olds. And then fiction and non-fiction for teen readers, which is young teens, which is 13 to 15. And then young adults, which is YA, which is for older, 15 to 18. And then everything goes into adult. But a lot of YA books have huge appeal for adult readers as well. So you need to understand this list, not only to be a creative, not only to be an illustrator, not only to be a writer, but also to be in publishing in these jobs, because their departments are quite often different, and even literary agents and rights agents focus on specific types, age groups. So some people will do picture books and chapter books. Some agents will only look at fiction for older readers. So you to understand that, so if you're working in those things, the way to understand that is you decide what is it that you really like. Go look at all the books in the libraries, go look at books in the bookshops, and figure out where is your inner child, and that inner child will tell you which area of publishing you want to work in. So this one is the most important thing for me, and I think a lot of people who spoke here will agree. There is a social responsibility and joy in creating for children, whether in whichever job you are in, because you are shaping young minds, you're creating the citizens of tomorrow, and therefore we are all trying to tell stories for young children to shape the culture of tomorrow. So keep that in mind. And I again provided a link there which you can where all of this information is in detail available, which you can go and check out.